I am in service. I really mean that. I am in service of music, and I'm the luckiest person in the world because of that.
Man, it's been a long time. It feels like a fraction of time since I saw you.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, frankly.
It's weird. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I do.
It shocked me when I thought it's been nearly 6 years.
It doesn't make any sense, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't. A lot of life in there for all of us.
Well, I'm very happy to see you, and thanks for having me in.
I'm very happy to see you too. You don't have to do this. You made it really clear in a really beautiful conversation. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. You and Joe have a great vibe, and you had a beautiful conversation on the podcast, which I'm a fan of. And you made a really good point, which was like, even though I haven't done a lot, I don't feel I need to do anything if I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I only say that, this is me picking myself up because I'm really grateful you said yes to this. So thanks, man.
No, of course.
So
I want to be here. I mean, like, I feel like the last time I saw you, I was like deep in the throes of rehearsal for this whole big arena tour. And like, I was like, well, you have to come to Eau Claire. It's just kind of like I was exasperated and exhausted from many years of doing more than I was really capable of doing. So I think when you all asked, I was like, I can't wait to have another chance to be in my body and talk to you this time. Because when I look back, I see these little clips come up of us talking, and I'm like, I can barely recognize, there's no calm in that guy. Like, I was there and I was with you and everything, but yeah, I'm just happy to be back.
Yeah, listen, same. And I have fond memories of that experience, but I remember getting a feeling that it was big.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, Eau Claire is so small, but I felt like we were in the biggest place in Eau Claire. It was like a huge hall and then I remember walking down the hallway after we spoke, and I was so happy because I'd finally had a chance to meet you properly and talk to you. You know how much I love your music and love you, man. And I walked down the corridor and I looked into down there in the amphitheater, or whatever it was, the theater, and there was the production. I thought, holy shit, it was big.
Yeah.
I mean, did it shock you at that time looking back on it now? Was it a shock to the system, even though you were moving in the moment and adapting in the moment as well? Tickets are on sale, adapt. But looking back on it now, is it kind of a shock that it became that?
I think the shock came way earlier, decade before that, and I think it just sort of, it spread out over this very long explosion. And I sort of somehow stayed alive and rode that wave of that explosion into kind of exhaustion. And like, so during that time, I was very, I was very anxious and kind of shocked, but I was used to it, but it was all a natural progression. If there's one thing that I'm really proud of, I mean, I can be proud of multiple things, I guess, but if there's one thing, it's that team that I put together. And, Michael Brown, who designed that set and everything. So I'm very proud of it, but I also, I was really, really, really exhausted and, like you said, shocked.
When did you, by the way, that exhaustion can carry on for decades.
Yeah.
When did you realize that you were exhausted and that something had to change?
Oh, years before that. I remember there was, I think 22 A Million came out, and I was not well,
Physically.
The anxiety was so prevalent that it was like happening before I would wake up, and I couldn't sleep, and we canceled the Europe tour. We just like canceled it, and didn't get any insurance money because it was, mental health. And so it was a disaster there for a while. And I think I had some rest and I had some, new therapy, enough exhaustion had kind of crept back in, and the mechanism had not been fixed.
It's such an interesting place to be for an artist like yourself, because I've spoken to many artists in very unique and individual ways who've been in a similar situation. And the through line to that is that there's this huge machine around them that is driving them to continue. And that's very hard to disassociate yourself from the strong mechanics driving your business, really.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like this was almost self-motivated, because I never got a feeling when I was with you in Eau Claire, or from any move you've made, that someone's behind you smoking a cigar, like, get out there, Justin, have a great show.
Yeah.
We'll put it back together in 2 hours.
That's such a good point.
I don't get the feeling that that's how you've been living your life.
I mean, it's such a good observation, and it's a great segue to say that, like, none of this is, I like sharing this stuff because I think I find it really important for other artists, other people in general, in any sort of place in their life, to recognize what burnout feels like. But yeah, I was very, very lucky in one sense that there was nobody pushing me. I had nothing but love around me. You know, think about my bandmate Sean Carey, who had been with me since my very first show, our very first show. You know, I had nothing but support, and it was a really difficult decision to sort of be like, I can't do this anymore. And I realized the main reason there was, of course, some self-oriented. There's some validation you get out there when you get out on stage in front of all those people, even if you're a humble Wisconsinite. I think I realized, oh yeah, there's
it's
some
a
ego.
kick. It's a kick.
There's a kick. Even if I acted like it wasn't, there was. But predominantly, I was so proud of that team and so proud of what we accomplished at like highest level. All of us could have done anything at together. It was really hard to sort of dismantle that. But yeah, nobody was ever pushing me. It was all me and my expectation train, you know.
Yeah, man, that's valid. That's absolutely valid. I mean, you know, when you've spent so long building something that feels like an extension of your community and the world gets to experience it, you get to celebrate every night what you've built. How do you say no to that?
Really, really hard. Hardest decision I've ever made in my life without even close second.
When you made that decision, was there any doubt about there ever being another Bon Iver record? Can you know, and I don't mean that in a dramatic sense of like, that's it, I'm calling it time.
Right.
But just because it gives you the freedom possibly to decide to come back for the right reasons.
Yeah, I think like the idea of going away and coming back, I think luckily just being a Midwestern, you see all these people like, oh, going on retirement, the last tour ever. And you're like, but they're back already.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I just am like, you don't have to tell people your plans because you don't even know what they're going to be. I think to answer your question though, like when I was, you know, in 2023, when it really was like, okay, I'm not well and I won't like make it anymore if I don't do something to change this pretty drastically and stop the whole touring engine. There was a sense of relief and incredible grief to say goodbye to the team that we built. But I had some songs already. And so I think I wasn't exactly sure. I was like, let me just get these songs done and just kind of sneak them out there so I can just get them off my chest because that's what I really needed to finish them, to learn what was inside them.
And that's where you started. That's what Forever is, right?
Yeah,
I've just got to get it out there.
Yeah, 100%. And this record, it as much as that first record, if not more, was really like just a keystone for healing and kind of growing away from this time period where I felt trapped.
It's funny you say that because, you know, when I listen to the album in its entirety now, I feel like you're honoring where you began in order to show how far you've come. It's
really well said.
It's like Fable's like, hey man, this is kind of who you've been, and there's nothing wrong with that. But by the end of it, man, by the end of Au revoir, it's like, look how far I've come, man. And just in one listen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we snuck me and Jags snuck the EP out first because it's really just like it would be too much for people to sort of take in. It was sort of like if Tolkien hit him with. I'm not putting myself on Tolkien, but if Tolkien hit him with if Tolkien hit him with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
It's so nice to have somebody else refer to Tolkien in their own achievements. I do it all the time, and people look at me like I'm crazy.
But yeah, I wanted people to be able to digest that first journey and that look back. And then when they both come out, I kind of encouraging people to check them both out at once or just Fable by itself. Or
no, you have to listen to them at once because it's beautiful, right down to the transition line, which is I'm trying to remember exactly what you say, but you say you have not yet gone too deep.
Yeah.
And I love that line, man, because it's like what a way to just to leave the old me and figure out. What I took from it was in a strange way, we assume that going deep is the hard stuff, but often the hard stuff's the stuff that's nearest and on the surface, and the depth is the happiness.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what that line kind of refers to as it goes into everything is peaceful love?
I think it's sort of saying both, right? Like I think it's a dichotomy line, but in that instance, I think it's sort of the last goodbye to what comes before it in the Sable songs and the cabin mystery situation. And it's sort of like, hey, you're not gone, homie. Like you are with your loved ones. You have not disappeared. You have life left to live. And that's what the Fable songs are, is this the cracking of the light coming in. you know.
Is that part of why you chose to leave Eau Claire in order to sort of, I guess, demystify who the isolated cabin guy is?
Yeah, man. I think it was pretty hard to not have Bon Iver be me, my identity.
Yeah.
And I look at, my favorite sports players or something, and I'm like, okay, Courtney Williams on the Lynx, for a Minnesota Lynx player that I love. Like, obviously that's their passion, and the way she plays the game is so fierce. But I have this sense that she also like has her life balanced out, and that her identity is the basketball player and the person. And I think, just as an example of somebody I thought recently, and for me, I think it's been so important to find my identity just in this bag of bones. And I love Eau Claire. As a matter of fact, I'm loving Eau Claire more than I have in a long time. It's because I've been spending a little more time out here and just walking down the street and being like, hi, my name's Justin. What's your name? Like, I haven't made a new friend if they weren't at my show or backstage or at my studio in 18 years. And that's a shock and a reason to change it up.
No, for sure. That idea of balance, it's something that I think we all strive for, even if we don't realize it. And we don't realize it's actually kind of it's simple moves, hard moves, but simple moves, right? Little simple sacrifices that allow you to grow. What was Los Angeles like when you landed? Were you like, yeah, man, like I'm open to it all? Or were you like, let me just take some time and figure out who I am from inside this living room and figure my way out?
That. Take my time. You're not gonna, back, not to be self-referential, but back in my song regarding Stacks, it's like, beware of crispy realization, basically. It's like, be careful of just like, ooh, I can just change my locus and be fine. Like, that's not going to work. But now that I've been, I'm splitting time now, which I'm incredibly lucky and grateful to be able to do between Eau Claire and East LA. But, it took a second going back and forth and continuing to visit family, but in a new kind of way where I'm kind of coming home more often. It feels really good.
It's funny, I've been doing that for longer than I lived in New Zealand.
Right.
More than half my life. And it's funny, over time, that people become ghosts and the stories become distant memories. And it starts to reveal itself through the filter of new people's experiences.
Yeah.
And that's a crazy thing.
It sure is, man.
It's a crazy thing.
At my summer camp I grew up going to, it's like they break down friendship into 3, tenets. And it's old friends, family friends, and new friends. And there's nothing like what a new friend can do to show you how far you've come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the songs goes back to 2020, Things Behind Things Behind Things. I mean, it's almost chronological, this album. Was that deliberate or to surprise you as you were kind of putting it together and figuring out what songs? Because I'm sure you have more songs than just the 3 or 4 that made it into Fable in terms of the older batch. I guess I'm getting to the way you conceptualize albums and the way that you put them together. I know from previous conversations you've had and previous footage I've seen that you do think about Tracklist as you go. You do start to conceptualize things. Is that the same here?
I think so, but it changes a lot. A conception can be in conception, but then you have to be willing to rethrow the bones, so to speak, and to see how else it's to see how else it could go.
To surprise yourself.
And I didn't know that I wanted them to be 2 pieces until really I got the last couple pieces of material, but once I realized that the Sable songs were of their ilk, I was sort of thinking about splitting them, but I was like, I don't know. It's basically, so it comes around and I'm up on the drawing with paint pens, the song list to see how it looks and
so
feels.
So much fun though.
So much fun. And then you just have to be willing to erase it all and see and go back again to see where you're at the next week or whatever.
So in 2020, when you were at Things Behind Things, you were clearly in a very heavy place.
Yeah.
That's one of the most self-reflective songs I've ever heard. I mean, it really is like as specific as you could be as a writer, talking about looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing a competitor.
Yeah.
And really the over-analysis of every decision, every move you make, and the fucking drive yourself absolutely crazy doing that shit, right? Yeah. So my question is, when you finish that song, do you feel better? Or does it remind you that you fucking are seeing things behind things behind things?
it's a meditation, you know, and that phrase, things behind things, came from a conversation I had with my best friend Phil Cook, and he just said it to me. He's just like, you know, when I'm trying to fix things, it's like my mind and my heart is like this old garage, and I just keep moving things around, but there's things behind things. And I went right home and just, you know, this was very early COVID, so within the first few weeks of just like, what? And I was by myself for a majority of the whole time, but this was like, it definitely felt like the beginning of a long trip.
Yeah.
So it was important to, you know, but to answer your question, if I felt better, it always feels better. But, you know, that song is a good example. I probably listened to it 500 to 1,000 times while I'm working it and you know, shaping the music and reshaping a lyric, re-singing it to see if there's a new feeling to eke out of there. And in the short term, it makes you feel better, but it's also a way to sort of lean into your grief and lean into your pain and lean into your guilt. I think eventually when I hear that song now, I feel clean from everything that I was dealing with when I had to write it and after I wrote it. But like, it takes years for things to take shape and for internal things to budge, I think, you know?
How do you get to a place of execution when you're so dedicated to detail?
I think it's just, I know when it's done when it's done.
God, that's real courage though, right? Because if you're 100 different vocal iterations into things behind things, that could be maddening. That you could get lost in that.
I think you do. And I, you know, I appreciate what you're saying about courage, but I think it's also like the one thing that I can do. You know, this world is so confusing and heartbreaking and beautiful. This is like the one thing I know I can do that brings the most truth to like the reality, in my own humble and serviceable way. So it's like when I'm working on that song, it's like I just know that that's what I'm doing. It's not really hard work. It may be maddening at times, like you said, but it's also like never unclear not where it's supposed to be, but how it's supposed to feel.
Feeling you're striving for. The feeling you're striving for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to swerve into this album in a second, but we've got to kind of address the maximalist side of you so we can really appreciate the more sort of refined version of Bon Iver on this album, which is just so beautiful to just hear like everything. And sometimes, by the way, I say that in full knowledge that one of the joys I get out of Bon Iver albums is I'm hearing things a year later that I never noticed before. And I think of you in the same way I think of Frank. Okay, base statement, everyone's going to be like, yeah, of course, like, duh. But there's a reason behind that. Because when I listen to Frank's music and I listen to your music, I feel like it's canvas work almost, rather than music work. I feel like you're putting strokes on there that I won't notice until the light changes in 6 months' time. Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely does. I mean, I think there's a lot of layering, and I think a lot of that comes from, I wouldn't call them improficiencies, but just sort of the fact that, you know, my musicianship, I just wanted to, you know, kind of conglomerate the music and put it together in this slow sort of sculpture way. There's this sculptor that I always reference named Andy Goldsworthy, who does work with, you know, ice and rock and sand and time like that.
Perishable materials that one bad chip, you got to really ask yourself. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, but I think, you know, we were talking about this before I came in. It's just like, as you get a little older, you start to feel like you have to impress or to exalt, or, you know, sometimes it's just like the magic of life is right here. It's nowhere else. There's no real mystery, actually. We are insanely beautiful creatures.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think where I've got to with the simplicity of this music, it was just like, I just want to give it to you. I just want to like have it be my version of Bob Seger Against the Wind, you know, just like, boom, here it is. Yeah. We're not going to hide. We're not going to put it behind any drapery. We're going to just give it to you as much as humanly possible.
So this is a new life in some respects. It's another opportunity for you to explore music in a more reduced way, which is a whole other like canvas to paint on. So when you go back and you look at your old paintings, i.e. you listen to these records, if they come on, if someone plays them, I don't know what your relationship's like with your music, but it must be almost kind of an out-of-body experience to hear the levels of distance you were willing to go with your friends in order to explore every emotional resonance on this song.
I think I have a good relationship with our music. I say it's me and my journey, but there's so many people that make up the.
I think of Bon Iver as a band.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a village, right?
Yeah,
that's what I've always said.
It's like Queens of the Stone Age more than it is a solo project.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
and so, when I hear the second record, I see a me that was just like, well, just going to play with house money. Like, what is even happening? I can do whatever I want. I can start the album with a kind of a metal song and then end it with like a sexy R&B nostalgia
Perth's a metal song?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever done a metal version of Perth? Have you ever heard it or seen it?
I know, actually.
All right, internet, do your worst.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
That's what TikTok's for.
Let's triple it those double bass drum hits, though. I want to hear them Man, I heard this new metal band on my YouTube algorithm. They're Brazil, 4 women death metal band called it Skypta or something.
I'm all over that.
I'm so into it. They are my favorite metal band right now.
By the way, Brazil and metal, fucking, it's like fucking, I'm trying to think of another example, like in sports or whatever. I was going to say it's like football, but they're really good at football as well.
So you can do that.
You can do that one, yeah. But it's just amazing how like there's just something about the passion out there that just fires into that tempo and that dynamic shift.
I didn't realize, I didn't grow up the biggest Sepultura fan, but I think they're Brazilian as well.
They are definitely Brazilian.
God.
Max, man.
So good.
The tribal nature of all that shit is just crazy.
I really love it.
It does make sense in a way when you talk about Perth and elements of that being somewhat tribal in a feeling. And also that, I guess let's just stay there for a second. Did it surprise you when you were like, I could do whatever I want. What have I got to lose? The first album was never supposed to be what it's become. And then you go on to be big. It's like, what happens here?
I mean, it gave me a lot of confidence, and not necessarily. There were points where maybe I pride myself on not ever drinking my own Kool-Aid I'm more afraid of good reviews than bad reviews, because bad review you can trust, and when somebody starts calling you, somebody says voice of a generation or a genius or something, it's like, well, that's not going to help me at all grow and be better.
I've been the most untrustworthy music fan of the last 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. I love it, and it's important to be discerning. It's okay. It's music songs, it's like after playing with so much house money and kind of just like, wow, I really am getting a lot of positive feedback for just doing my thing. It all started to catch up, and 22 Million, you start to hear that anguish a lot, and that difficulty and that discomfort.
That felt like a violent record to me in some ways. And I feel like that's when you started to explore sound design as a means of an emotional reaction rather than just as an arrangement decision.
I think I was trying to shred out of a cage that I had found myself stuck in. And I kind of put myself there, or whatever, however you want to look at it. And I think when you get to I, that record, I think that's very much feels like a fulfillment of the growth from one to many. The band is the band is the biggest, the music is the biggest, and I wanted to just fulfill that sort of destiny of us just doing, as an indie band could, just kind of go to as big as you can get, and then sort of burn out into exploding star situation, and here I am left to kind of just have at least one more chance to just look at it and express all I can. From my standpoint, it's
the perfect story if you look at it right down to the way you recorded I. The effect you had like old projection movies being played on, like, if I'm correct, on like white sheets on the wall while you guys are taking tabs of acid or whatever the fuck you were doing, just figuring it the fuck out.
Yeah,
into arenas. It's like, oh my god, it's kind of what a beautiful realization.
That was fun.
One of the important transitions from Fable to Sable is award season. Sorry, Sable to Fable is award season, short story into Everything is Peaceful Love. And throughout, there are delicate observations about relationships. I'm fascinated with the idea of being a songwriter and what its contribution towards creating and maintaining healthy relationships. And I've come to the conclusion, having spoken to many people about it, that it's actually quite a complex balance. Because, right down to the simple observation of like, does someone fall in love with you, or are they drawn to you by the observations you're making as you're trying to improve yourself? So which person are you in love with? Does that make sense?
Yes. We are shadows and projections of ourselves constantly. And it's really hard to know when it's real.
Which one you should be to be of value.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, how do we feel valued? Like, I ended up, any insecure parts of me, I was like a well-liked popular kid because I was like in with the sports people and the music people in high school. But, there's a couple dances I didn't get an invite to. And like those holes of insecurity, they got just like nice and filled up with the validation that I got from being sad bastard guy, And so it's just like, I'm full, I'm complete.
Yeah.
And I think, I've actually talked about it with my therapist that I think at that point, when it came to relationships, especially, romantic ones, I think we talk about it as a maturity gap. I think I stopped growing into being an adult because I was just like, well, I'm just going to be in the studio 24/7. I'm going to go on tour. I'm going to smoke weed. I'm going to do acid, and I'm just going to do all these things.
And by the way, isn't that what you want from me? Because you love my music, so
exactly.
Yeah.
Let me stay in the zone, and I don't have any regrets, only lessons, and that's kind of what the word fable came from too. It's like it's a love story, but it's a lesson, and every day you should be learning from love and what it does to you and how you can give it better.
There's also, if you want to be specific about the term, and there's lots of different variations and nuances to these terms. Sable has multiple, and obviously there's a sense of darkness to the shade of color. Fable in itself could be something that could be seen as romantic or striving for, but it's also kind of foundationless as a word.
Mm-hmm.
It could evaporate really easy and just become a fable.
Yep, that's right. There's a long ago or like once upon a time fiction.
Yeah. Am I creating new fiction?
Am I creating this? Am I making this up? Is this real? Or is this all just here to teach me one more painful lesson? I think the answer can be
just one more.
Just one more. One more, please.
Just one more.
No more.
Then I'm out.
Bartender.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we had the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Let's talk about the sound of the music, because one of the things we love about Bon Iver Records, and I say we, I speak for all of us, is the way that you are able to bring these words and these emotions to life and present something that feels immersive. But there's less to be immersive in this time, and you talked about the kind of being more direct with the songs and kind of the Bob Seger of it all. When did that start to kind of show itself? The Fable side start to present itself as like, break beats over multiple drum tracks competing with each other. That's fun.
I think like leaning into the fun was part of it. And, also like, I don't look back with any regrets. I love the records and everything that came before that. But I was like, I'm not going to try as hard. I'm gonna or not be a try hard. I tried very hard to make it.
There's such a difference.
There's a big difference.
In our generation, maybe younger kids don't realize, but there's a difference between trying hard and being a try hard.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
That was like in the top 5 insults on the playground, I reckon.
Yeah.
That was up there with like clown shoes.
Yeah.
Like if anyone called you clown shoes, you're cooked.
Yeah, you're done.
Like go home for the day.
Yeah.
If you got called a try hard, it's like, what are you
gonna do?
You can't come back from that.
I am trying too hard.
Stop trying so hard. It's just brutal.
Yeah, very.
It's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
So what did that feel like when you started to try less hard?
Like I was moving past any obligation to make anything for any reason other than to find fun and truth.
That's freedom.
Yeah. And I think I don't spend a lot of time thinking about what this stuff will what the reactions will be, positive or negatively, to fans or to people that, will hear Bon Iver for the first time, maybe.
Is that hard? Is it a discipline to do that?
I think it's a pretty natural thing for me to do, especially since the whole house money thing. It's like, Bon Iver lives in that sweet spot of like, we're not household names, but we're respected enough that people will check it out and everything. But I think it's important to not really give into all that and not worry if people will like it or not, because people don't have to like things. It's okay. And I, certainly can expect some people to hear the Fable stuff, especially, and be like, man, it's just not, I wanted to kind of stay in the woods a little longer. I wanted to stay in the like sad draped up stuff. And that's cool too. There will be more coming, I'm assuming, at some point. There's the old stuff, but I just was like,
bastard still exists.
Yeah. It feels like fearless, though. It felt like, I think fearlessness and boldness is like the two of the best ingredients for making truthful art.
it's one of the bravest things that I know I keep using words like brave and courage, but I'm using those words very deliberately. I'm incorporating them into the conversation about music because I think that we dismiss it as being playtime. And I think it actually takes real courage to find what you want to say and share it with people that you don't know.
Yeah.
I do think that's courage and out of the many forms of courage that exist. And I think everything is peaceful love is like a beautiful, courageous statement, which is like, well, look at me. I'm in a tree.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I couldn't say it any better. It's just like that feeling of smiling where you can't smile any harder. I just wanted to get that feeling on the record too.
I want to push you a little further into where you were, where the song came from, and what ultimately inspired that sense of kind of like simple euphoria.
I think, when something new is happening and there's love and romance and discovery and like you're feeling like you're found, I think you said it really well a few minutes ago about, whatever the projection or the shadow of who you are is being seen at a high level. And there's this resonance with another person. Sometimes it's almost, there's the discomfort to it. It's like, will my heart leap through my mouth and like explode on the street? And I'll just be like, because it's such a powerful beam of light. And, when you experience that with somebody and you're being seen and you're seeing someone so much, boy, it really feels like it gives a reason for any pain that came before that. And so I think that's why it's just sort of like everything is peaceful love. There's like 0%, like the verses of that song have the questions and how long will this last? And, but it also says like, we'll figure that out. That's for parting days, like it's just all about celebrating this moment right here and just sort of like trying to express that heart leap out of your chest feeling.
You brought some friends along too, which I think I said, and I could be because Bon Iver is such a collaborative experience anyway. Features don't really show because it's kind of like you find out later on in the credits or whatever that someone showed up and played maracas or someone did this or someone did that.
Yeah.
But it's cool kind of having like featuring, it's kind of a vibe.
I've never done that before.
Never done that before.
Well, I just like, I feel like there's many things that I avoided doing just because I didn't want to go along with like a trend or something. I don't judge people for doing things that I wouldn't do.
But that's a form of self-conscious, isn't it? More
Yeah,
than
I think
anything
so.
else?
Exactly. And I wanted to just be unconscious. It's like, these people are featuring on this song.
Yeah.
I've never done a feature. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like appropriate, like, so it's just like, I just wanted to kind of bypass any of those sort of like self-editing, like, oh, this is how Bon Iver doesn't know. It's like, no, let's just have some fun.
So I asked you a question last time we met, I remember, about collaboration and what you look for in true collaborators. And now I'm going to follow that up with a part 2, which is how do you make somebody comfortable in an environment where they are so attuned to who you are and what you make? No one walking into a room with you is not going to want to do the best they can on a Bon Iver album. They are all fans and they all want to bring their best to make your music the best. But I'd imagine you're asking them to be themselves. So how do you find a balance between those two things?
Well, I do humbly never really put myself in that light of like, oh, people must be nervous to be around me.
But you don't have to. That's the point. Do you know what I mean?
I realize there's a respect that I really it makes me feel good. But I know that like there's also a part of me that needs to be a player coach and needs, like, if we're going into a game and got to get these people on the court, if we're going to use the sports metaphor, I need to set the environment up so that they are walking and then running as versions of themselves, might be just my job to sit in the corner and shoot corner threes. I might need that the other person bring the ball.
As long as you win the game.
As long as the metaphor is getting out of hand.
Not at all. In fact, we're going to talk about sports next.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank God. But yeah, I mean, that's just about making people feel comfortable. I think that's an asset. I think that's the camp counselor in me. It's like making everyone feel accepted and encouraged without being like placating,
Yet, there was a turn from Danielle on this album, which is so nurturing, man. Like Haim are a dynamic outfit.
Yeah.
They can break your heart, but they can make you rock. Yeah. And I feel like she slid into that song in full respect of what was written and in front of her.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprise to her and to me as well. Like, I mean, when we got together with Jimmy, we got snowed in like 2022, And the year before, I think, is when Women in Music Part 3 came out, and I got rocked by that album.
Yeah.
Like, it's some of my favorite music I've ever heard in my life. One of those records that it just didn't come off the player. It wasn't off in my car for so many months. And I think it possessed this sort of fun, rocking, like, it connected me with the things that I would hear on the radio in the 90s, like the things that are Bonnie Raitt and Sheryl Crow and like these, brilliant women, and just like getting rocked by that. So anyway, when I jumped at the chance.
When we first met and they came out with their first songs, which was so precociously anthemic, and I say that because they were young and they were just shooting for the rafters, right? And I always used to hassle them as a big compliment and say, you guys are on your Shania Twain shit, man. Like this shit is like, you are writing songs that are going to make, that millions of people over the course of their life are going to connect to, because these are fucking undeniably huge.
I hope they hear that. They need to know that. They are my favorite American rock band, man. They just fucking slay.
Did you know Danielle very well before you guys worked together, or were you just a fan from a distance?
Not really well. I mean, we had met a number of times throughout the years. Like, I think I first met Danielle when she was 19, playing guitar and percussion in Jenny Lewis's band. And we did a co-headlining show in like Utah or something, us and Jenny. And like Ethan Gruska was the merch guy. And like he lost the money that night or something. So I met Danielle then, and then I think another time I met the gals in like dressing hut in like a Montreal music festival, and we like were sampling Steve Winwood on my in between bong rips on my OP1, but like, so not an incredibly quality amount of time or something.
Are you kidding? That. Bong rips on the OP1 is like my idea of
I think that was a Volcano Choir tour. Yeah, that would have been.
That's the OP1 era.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that piece of machinery, by the way. It's so much fun.
Shout out Teenage Engineering.
100%.
But yeah, so really didn't know her super well by the time she showed up. And we made a lot of stuff that really ran the gamut. But for whatever reason, If Only I Could Wait, as a shell, as a seed, had this feeling. And I suppose there was a opportunity to just be like, this is a duet. Like, I could think about me and Danielle writing this for me and anyone to sing. But I could never separate the way her voice sounded with mine when she was coming up with kind of her melodies, and then I started playing them at the same time and being like, wait, they're talking to each other. Mm-hmm. They're talking through the strings of time, through space, so it took a long time to figure out what the song needed to say, but yeah, I've never heard her sing like that, and we worked on it for a really long time, and I'm just thrilled with how truthful the song really is.
Who you got for March Madness?
Man, I'm paying a lot of attention to the Gals tournament. I'm very sad about Juju going down.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking, by the way, because that's a long term.
That's a year out. I think I got UConn. I got Paige, the Minnesota girl. I gotta go with her for the Gals. I was cheering for Iowa State, the girls and boys. I just sort of adopted them. But they're out now, so I'm sort of a little bit heartbroken in the men's tournament. But
what makes you adopt a team? I mean, because there's so much put on sports in terms of like, listen, I'll hand you down this team if you ever, son of mine, if you ever leave. And I'm an adopter because I've lived in multiple cities, right? So I'm an All Blacks guy. Like, like, of course, like that's stamped on my passport for life.
Yep.
But like, I was a Knicks fan, and then I was like, fuck, 25 years of heartbreak, man. I live in LA now. Let me just support an LA team.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble, but I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Join me.
I am from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I identify.
No, really?
And I grew up watching the Badgers. I was at the 94 Rose Bowl, and my sister was in the band, and I love the Wisconsin Badgers. I really do.
But
something happened, and this is the part I'll get roasted about, and I'm sorry, but I'm just being honest, that the style in which Wisconsin sports, other than the women's volleyball team, which they are just dominant. Football, it's like they've run the ball for 30 years to success, but they're not going to win a national championship.
It's the same playbook, essentially.
In men's basketball, they play defense. They're the best defensive team in the land, and they've gotten better and better at offense. But I would love to see them kind of take the governor off a little bit when it comes to that and play a little less conservatively. So I just started.
So this is a protest move.
I was like, Iowa State Cyclones. I like those colors.
Wow.
I like Iowa. It's like kind of nearby. I changed my like cell phone number. I got an Iowa, Spirit Lake, Iowa.
This is so deep. This is so deep.
I was like, I'm gonna adopt this, and
Shit.
Audie Crooks on the girls team this year. All the boys and the football team's cool too in the Big 12. Like, that is the sound.
Wisconsin, you need to get your shit together.
Let's go.
You've got somebody who's, and I'm going to just embarrass you now. You've contributed some infrastructure to that place, and you've got some real observations, some sound observations. Yeah, you humbly protest to the front office, but you didn't even give them a shot. You didn't even walk in there and slam your hand on the desk and just be like, a little more offense.
Nobody's listened to me till now.
You just went down to the DMV and switched your license.
That's right.
That's so dark.
Spirit Lake, Iowa. That's my phone number now.
I'm in recovery mode. I mean, I'm a fucking fly-by-nighter, but bro, you're in the air.
Yeah.
You're 30,000 feet in the air. You're way higher than I am.
Hell yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, and then you got to say that untouched by anything in sports fandom, the Green Bay Packers are above God and everyone. I just have to say that. That's not changed.
That's fair. That's fair. How did you feel about the Eagles, though? Were you?
Who?
Yeah, okay, good. All right, good. Tough day for you then. Tough day for everybody.
Didn't watch. Don't care.
Well, probably not a bad thing. It was over in 3 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
It was literally done. Let's talk a little bit about songwriting as a craft for you away from Bon Iver, because this is a fair place for me to go because we haven't seen each other for 6 years.
Yeah.
You've shown up in some beautiful environments with some amazing people.
Yes.
That Folklore era was transformative, not just for Taylor, hugely for Taylor, I think, as a songwriter, in terms of just her being able to say to the whole world and cast and removing any shadow of a doubt of where she stands as a writer in her generation.
Could not agree more.
Right. But also the fact that I think that she is someone who had been seen as a lone achiever.
Yeah.
A singular entity who achieves at the highest level, to see her within a community and to be embraced by other writers and for her to embrace you felt good for fans.
1,000. I mean, I actually haven't really said this out loud before, this aspect to the story, because all the glory goes to Taylor,
of course.
For her courage to reach out to Aaron. But like right in February there, we were going to go on a tour of, this is 2020. Mm-hmm. So this is all, the timeline's a little fuzzy, but stay
right
with
on
me.
the cusp of quarantine.
Exactly. And so Andrew Fitzpatrick, who's playing guitar in Bon Iver, was going to have a baby in April. Did have a baby. And we were out a guitar player for our big European run that we were going to do for I&I. And I asked Aaron. So Aaron was flying out to gigs. He was listening and rehearsing. He was in. And what we were going to do is have Aaron go out to the middle of these arenas and just like play demos of Big Red Machine new stuff. Just play them and
before the Bon Iver show.
just kind of DJ. And I was like, Aaron, do that. He's like, oh, buddy, like that makes me nervous. But like, that's just like in the spirit of Big Red Machine. Just like go out there and just like dig around. Like I'll go up there too. We'll all just go up there and do the Big Red Machine thing. And of course, like we play our last show, I think March 7th. And then, March 12th, the NBA season is canceled and COVID, really trips up. And so that tour pretty quickly gets canceled. And, it's, a brick wall for everybody, especially in music, for everybody. But to like have the tour stopped and to have that, especially for Aaron, was working really hard on opening these shows with these demos, these songs that I just was like, let's just let them breathe. And like, you can come and then you play in our set, you'll do double duty. You know?
But how fun.
And, somewhere around that time, like everybody, like me, Aaron was going on Instagram Live and just playing stuff he's been working on, because I think we just needed to share. And Taylor heard it. Again, all the glory goes to Taylor for hearing as a songwriter what music she wants to make. But like those songs are Big Red Machine demos.
Amazing.
At their core, you know what I mean? And then her genius was working with the genius of Aaron Dessner on making the strongest set of lyrics and songwriting that she's ever had, really.
Yeah.
And so during that process, I'm just sort of like watching it happen, and to me, it was very much like seeing Taylor enter our whole universe. Of course, there's no one bigger, and we're all bowed down to her, But to see to see her come into that, just it was almost like I couldn't stop blinking. I was like, this makes so much sense. The love and community that Aaron had showed me over these years, and what we'd done with Big Red Machine and people and all the events that we had done, Taylor was just stepping right into it and flawlessly taking it. And then Aaron hits me up and is like, so, Butto, I think there's a song, that Taylor would like you to sing. And I was like, Taylor? He's like, yeah, I haven't told you yet, but, taking some of the songs and she's writing to them. I was like, awesome. I'm not doing anything today, So they sent it, and like, I ended up adding a couple little bits, but that's how Aaron and Joe and Taylor wrote the song, and I just sang it on an SM7 in my little makeshift studio.
Just quarantining kind of on your own, just figuring it out.
And it felt level to everything else. I mean, it's an exceptional song and an exceptionally popular song for a good reason, but it felt just so natural. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity just to have worked with such an amazing artist.
Hopefully the only time I'll see it, and definitely the most clear example of the artistic spirit coming to the surface those 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we see it in the framework of industry, business, success, touring, albums, the cycle.
Yeah.
But there was no cycle. So it's like, okay, who's showing up and how he's showing up?
Yeah.
And the people who kind of found a voice through that time, the ones who couldn't and eventually came back and had been through a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you were right to say it affected everybody, but I don't want to undersell the impact it had on the arts and on people who express themselves for a living.
Yeah. I think my bandmate, Flock of Dimes, Jen Wasner, he was also on this record in a major way, all over the place, actually.
Gets a feature, though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Said something really great. It's like, all us musicians, we're used to adapting. We're used to checking into the Super 8 at 3 a.m. or getting up at 7 to get to the airport and fly 25. Like, we're used to things changing. And to the best of us, a lot of us were able to adapt, even though it's really hard at times,
What role does music play in your life when you're not making it, man? How do you enjoy it? How do you live with it? Are you more a podcast human? I mean, like, what's your sort of general intake of information or inspiration?
Man, it's funny. I think I have such a well of inspiration, and I'm almost like tired of it or something. And I don't listen to a lot of music in these last years. I really don't. I listen to this. Usually if I find a song, I'll listen to one song over and over and over again.
What was your last obsession? Can you remember?
Yeah, probably either McGee, Candy, or Little Feat, Long Distance Love. Or there's been a few, but like those, I'll just get on a thing where I just can't stop listening to the song for days or weeks.
I've got that with this Ben Qualla song right now, Dollar Store. Which
I gotta hear it.
Oh, dude, it's just, it's perfect.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's my favorite when you can hear a song over and over again. It's like, then I feel like I'm studying what makes a song listenable over and over again. It's like perfection. But I'm not really, honestly, I try to spend a lot of my time just being like, uninspired so that I can just rest.
What is that?
Gerard Butler movies.
Yes, sir. Yeah, twofer now. You got a twofer. Holy shit. My thing about Gerard Butler is so straightforward, all right?
Yep.
I appreciate you're here to save the world.
Yes.
I really do. And no one is strong enough, broad-shouldered enough, or quite frankly, ruddy and tired-looking enough to do that job than you.
And going through a divorce.
But why are you always going through a divorce?
Yeah.
And also, why do you always have to save your family? So you're trying to save the world, but you're clearly a shitty dad and a shitty husband because your family is 5,000 fucking miles away every time.
Every time.
It's
something that I can go to that just I can count on. And I go back to each movie over and over again. I'm like, Greenland 2, I know your production schedule. I am patiently awaiting.
Holy shit, I'm so here for this.
Yeah.
By the way, this really tells me a lot about it. At some point one day, eventually, if and when you become dad goals, you're Gerard Butler.
Hell yeah.
That's your inspiration.
I can bulk up maybe if I eat enough steak or something.
Eat enough fucking red meat. Gerard Butler movies. I'm so fucking here for that.
Yeah.
So at what point have you been backstage at a Bon Iver concert and someone's walked in the room and you're like, oh, this is fucked up. Like, what the fuck? I can't believe that fucking, I don't know, somebody just came in, they're a fan, and you got to do that that thing, which is kind of weird, but you want to do it because they're a fan and they're cool, and this is what the luxury of being a fan with some fucking pull gets you. So you get to go back there and say, "I love your music," and you get to go, "Thanks, man, I love your," and you are. What the fuck is that?
I don't know, man. It hasn't happened a ton. I was usually pretty. When COVID happened, we started playing shows again. I would use that as a good opportunity to sort of like,
quarantine.
Quarantine.
Backstage.
It's like, because it's too much to socialize. But I mean, there's been so many, but everyone's been cool. Everyone's been amazing. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example. The Claire Danes came back to a solo show I did, and then we got like, I feel really bad, Claire. We got too high. And it was just sort of like, nice to meet you. And I felt so bad. I feel so bad because I was like, that was too much for me. Like her and her partner, I think, were there. And it was just like, shit.
Did I just blow out Claire?
I think it was a bad vibe. Yeah, and it was my fault, but I felt bad about that.
Something tells me she'd be sound about that, though.
Of course,
she's got sound vibes.
But like when you just get to that point where like the brand new strain of weed hit the streets and it's like 90% or whatever, it's like drinking a Four Loko or something. Like, what are we doing here? People out there making weed, just chill out.
Just chill out. Why do you got to blow my mind so bad,
like
man?
we just trying to sit and enjoy like a bunch of puffs of something that's from the earth. Like you don't have to like. Make it so strong though, like Mountain Dew 10 or whatever. Like we don't need to do that.
Now that you've reestablished a certain framework for yourself and you're away from what was expected or you expected of yourself for so many years, this kind of rhythm and this loop of shit, how do you see post-album life? Like how does touring and all the things that you would have normally slipped into, like when we met last time?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you now?
It means a lot. I got to say, a lot of people were supporting me through this decision-making process, but I got to pat myself in the back a little bit because, I am not going on tour today, tomorrow, or in a week, or in 3 months.
No plans.
No plans. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not touring this record. I don't want to say those words. I'm just like, how about a record? How about I work on a record for 5 years and we just take a minute and check it out?
Yeah.
And then I can take a minute and exhale from everything that came from making it and now promoting it, which this is the first time I've ever really truly enjoyed this part of the process where I'm actually present and not my, anxiety hasn't got a boot on me. I think whatever I figure out to do next will be really honest and will be much better and much more interesting and much more needed in the world. Or desired in the world than it would be if I was just getting a tour together to go out on the circuits.
It must be so rewarding to know that the people who are excited and anticipating that return, perhaps, it's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
But it's still understanding that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I shout out to our like subreddit community. They're really great, and I go on there and visit them sometimes, and they're just like, people are like, "Where's the tour, man?" And then like 90 comments are like,
"Relax.
Hey man, Justin just has to deal with some stuff right now." I'm just like, God bless you. Thank you for seeing it. Thank you for understanding that like I don't want music to be a product. I understand that it is. I understand that, there's things we got to deal with like streaming laws and getting musicians paid. It's an industry and it always has been. But to me, more importantly, it's so like wildly important to remember that it is a magic and a service to our spiritual beings as people that we need to celebrate and protect as well. And that's where I always try to keep music above that. Like I don't want it to fall in to just like record industry cannot hold the magic of music.
That is the concern I have, not to be too lofty and hysterical about this kind of current obsession with scale and AI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about the impact it's going to have on me when I want to make music, or you when you want to make music, or anyone who gets the process. It's hilarious how divorced from what really matters to artists this particular evolution actually is. And the tools already exist. But I just don't like the word scale when it comes to the arts. People who bring scale to something that's essentially a very intimate human experience generally missed the point by like some considerable margin.
1,000%.
As an artist, I just think it's good to kind of, even if you don't have an answer at this point, just to keep the conversation alive, because they'll slide it in. They're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on, I mean, does it even cross your mind, or you're like, it's just not what I do it for? It doesn't bother me, this whole development of technology in that space, because really I'm going to keep doing what I do.
I'm using it. I'm using it to find things, to make music. I'm using AI to locate new places that I can live and to discover. And it's an amazing tool. Just like every tool that has come into human hands started out as what? A utility to help human life be better. But when that tool becomes, protected by the people that think that they own it, it then becomes their responsibility when they start charging everyone for utility like water.
That's right.
Or a paintbrush.
Which they're doing right now with information.
Exactly. So AI, not the problem inherently. It's what we are doing with it. You know what I mean?
You and Brian Eno, man, he said the same thing. He said the issue I have with AI is it really seems to be owned by 3 or 4 people, and some of them I don't really like what they do.
And shame on you. Shame on you for thinking that you own something that is a utility that has come from thousands of years of development and consideration. Like to think you own that something, anything, is you're already off to the wrong race. And come back to us. I say it with compassion. Like, you still have time to come back to us, where we will love you still if you just don't take as much percentage. Like, give back.
It's Tolkien again. It's the Hobbit.
Like,
it's the Hobbit.
you are important too.
Yeah.
But like, we're not going to have any more Rolling Stones or the Beatles if you keep taking. So let's it might sound like a Hallmark card, but like, take a chance and give back. Like, it's okay. Like, we will accept you and we can come back, So.
I would never, ever want to sort of rush anything like this, but I'm so grateful that I get a chance to talk to you just today, and to get to sort of, I suppose, have the responsibility to some degree to tell you that, your music has just made all of our lives so much greater. And I'm not sure I would have felt comfortable telling you that a few years back. Maybe I would have felt like I was killing you with kindness. But you seem kind of open to that now, so you should hear it, man.
Thank you. I do. And I'm so appreciative of your intuition and your appreciation. Because, again, coming back to like putting yourself in the right place and accepting your role and your responsibility, is not my role or responsibility to take credit for everything I've done, but to understand that I've worked very hard at it, and I am in service. I really mean that. I am in service of music, and I'm the luckiest person in the world because of that. And to be able to come here and sit and talk about it with you is extremely rewarding. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Justin.